House will come to order. House will come to order. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 370? 370.
House Bill 370 by Representative Gaines, the 120th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48534, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to ad valorem property tax bill form, so as to require the property tax bill for any school district that opts out of the statewide base year homestead exemption to state the total amount of the school district's reserve funds. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
The gentleman from Athens, Representative Houston Gaines, is recognized to present House Bill 370. Members will give your attention to the gentleman in the well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 370 is a taxpayer transparency piece of legislation that will ensure if a local government, whether it's municipality, county, or school board, voted to opt out of House Bill 581, the constitutional amendment that the voters overwhelmingly approved in November, that passed in all 159 counties in this state, and almost unanimously approved by this body and by the Senate, that if they opted out of House Bill 581, that they would have to put on property owners' tax bill that local government, specifically the board, either the county commission, school board, or otherwise, voted to opt out of homeowner tax relief, the date of the vote, and the phone number that concerned citizens can call to share feedback on that decision. Additionally, any school system that voted to opt out would have to include how much money they have in cash reserves and how much they have in reserves per student. Many of you may have recently seen that our school systems across the state have $6.5 billion in reserves, and at the same time, many of them are opting out of homeowner tax relief. And relief that I'll note, that it's important to note, I think that this is not going to decrease revenues. Instead, it would slow the growth in revenue. And again, it's common sense legislation that will help homeowners across this state so they can know how much, limit the increase in their assessed value of their homes. And so, Mr. Speaker, that's what the bill does. Also, I do think it's important to note that any local government that already has a similar homestead exemption, or if they have a 100% senior exemption, will be exempt from this piece of legislation. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to answer any questions.
The gentleman has a question. Then we do have a speaker on the bill that's opposed. To your left, Representative Park Cannon is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you yield?
I do.
I'm concerned about the language related to reserves. Can you speak to that? Because school systems are supposed to hold a certain amount in an account, and it might be misleading to make them write that amount as if they're just holding and stockpiling that. So can you speak to the reserves piece, please?
Be happy to. And I do think we've seen, and I actually have the statistics right here for every single county in the state, how much money they have in cash reserves. Over the last 5 years, the amount of reserves has doubled for our school systems combined. And so certainly I agree. I think there's an appropriate amount. But when you see $6.5 billion statewide in reserves, I certainly think that property owners and homeowners would find that to be unacceptable when they're opting out of simple homeowner property tax relief.
Do you further yield?
Sure.
So to just put some data to it, you said you have all the school systems there. Can you speak to Atlanta Public Schools? How will this impact? What amount is an APS going to be told that they have to put on the notices, with the understanding that some of that they should have in there?
Sorry, I'm scrolling through all of our school systems here real quick. So Atlanta Public Schools has 258 million in reserves. Pretty significant number. That's over $5,000 per student. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. We have one member sign up to oppose, that is opposed to this bill. I'm going to recognize Representative Berry. Can you get to yours in about 5 minutes? Gentleman has up to 5 minutes. Representative Berry is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With all due respect, I rise today in support of local control. That phrase is thrown around often in this chamber, yet is not always lived up to. This 2-page bill presents itself as simple, and it is a simple bill. to bully school districts. A simple bill that ignores the gross underfunding of our schools. A simple bill that ignores the fact that today is the 40th birthday of the QBE formula that isn't working on 2025 standards. This is a simple bill that is not a real solution to support our local districts and is misrepresenting why local districts may opt out of the homestead exemption. Our schools are underfunded, and the consequences are dire. This is not an abstract issue. It is a reality that affects all our children's education, our community's economic prosperity, and our state's future. The root of this crisis is simple: a lack of sufficient state funding and an outdated funding formula that has failed to keep up with the needs of modern education. Because the state fails to provide adequate funding, local school districts are forced to rely on property taxes to make the difference. This creates a system of inequality where wealthier districts with higher property values can provide more for their students, while poorer districts struggle to keep up. This is not just an education issue. It is an issue of fairness and opportunity. And every child, regardless of where they live, deserves access to a high-quality education. But when districts are left to fend for themselves due to inadequate state support, those in less affluent areas suffer the most. Yet instead of addressing the root issue, we expect to shame districts for having a reserve of funds that, by law, they are required to maintain. The bill does not acknowledge that districts hold reserves for a reason: to prepare for emergencies, economic downturns, or unexpected costs. Requiring districts to disclose these reserves on tax bills doesn't just create confusion for taxpayers, it opens school districts up to financial scrutiny that can be weaponized against them. It invites bad faith attacks from those who want to claim that schools are hoarding money, when in reality, they're simply trying to survive in a system that underfunds them year after year. Furthermore, this bill assumes a one-size-fits-all approach, disregarding the fact that each district has unique financial needs. Some districts may need larger reserves due to volatile local revenue streams, while others may be preparing for future infrastructure projects. Instead of bullying districts for finding ways to keep lights on, I challenge this body to do the right job. The time to act is now. Education funding is not an expense. It is an investment in our children, our economy, and our future. We must demand that our state provide the funding necessary to give every child the opportunity they deserve. Let's stand together and fight for the future of Georgia's schools, rather than increase the burden on our local districts to raise property taxes in the first place. Thank you, and I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. There's no further speakers on House Bill 360. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? For what purpose does Representative Wade rise?
Parliamentary inquiries, Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that this body, with bipartisanship, has fully funded QBE in the last several budgets since I've been serving in this body, and that we have increased teacher pay to the highest in the southeastern United States? And does this also recognize that schools, boards, counties, and cities still have the ability to raise their millage rate if their needs exceed that of their assessment growth for their total digest? Is this not true, sir?
The gentleman knows of what he speaks. He comes from that life and that management before he came here. Have all members now voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 370, the yeas are 96, the nays are 77. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 360, 360?
House Bill number 360 by abstraction of the 104th to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated related to income tax imposition rate, computation, exemptions, and credits so as to revise the tax credit for the rehabilitation of historic structures. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Estration is recognized to present the bill. Mr. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring to you HB 360, designed to jumpstart development in downtown Atlanta in 2025 and 26. Prior to the World Cup beginning in June of next year, many of you are familiar with the Georgia Historic Rehabilitation Tax Credit, which has long supported the revitalization of historic structures by encouraging private investments in historic buildings. This legislation will encourage the development of downtown Atlanta through historic projects from those who are currently in line to receive the historic tax credits over the next few years, if in these developments they're able to obtain a certificate of occupancy that's complete their projects by 2026. And important to note, this does not increase the cap on the historic tax credits. I'd ask for your favorable consideration, and Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to answer any questions.
The gentleman has no questions.
I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. This is so. Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 360, the yeas are 168, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Is this your first bill? Today. Yeah. Two of our female members tricked me, so I wanted to make sure. I thought I remember your face. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 494?
House Bill 494 by Representative McLean of the 109th and others to be entitled an act to amend Part 4 of Article 13 of Chapter 6 of Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to mopeds so as to require mopeds to be covered by a form of minimum financial responsibility for accident damages. This bill having referred to the Committee on Motor Vehicles, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Representative, this is about mopeds? Yes. Do you have a moped? I was wondering about that. I'll let you explain it. Representative Dewey McLean is recognized to present House Bill 494.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I do have a real simple bill on mopeds. The reason that 6 years ago I got this, I received this from one of my interns, Micah Richards. Micah is probably watching. A lot of you all know Micah. but he was coming to the Capitol, and what happened? He was rear-ended by a moped, and when he was rear-ended, everybody was okay, but that's Micah's car right there, and it was $2,500 worth of damage on that vehicle, and he had a $500 deductible. College kid, parents gave him the vehicle, and the reason I said that was because he had to pay all of it. He had to pay the $500 deductible, one. Two, he also had to get his car fixed, and then three, I think his insurance rates went up. But it is a real simple bill. It says, no person shall operate a moped upon the highways of this state unless such moped is covered by a form of financial responsibility, which provides for the ability to respond in damages for liability on account of accidents and amount specified in subparagraph of Code Section 33.7.11. And earlier today, I did put on your desk, there are 25 states right now that do have moped insurance. Oh, those are red states. Those are blue states. You know, I want to Alabama, California, Illinois, Mississippi, Alabama. Did I say that already? Okay, I'm sorry. New York, Vermont, Texas, Washington, Alabama, Mississippi. I just want you all to know.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Mr. Speaker, how did you know about that? You got it too? But yes, include Oklahoma, where I'm from. It also has this. So all I want you all to know is that this will help a lot of the, that would help a lot of the citizens in Georgia. So with that, I'll be happy, Mr. Speaker. I'll ask for your favorable support of this legislation. I know I've had some comments, and I want to make sure that I'm here to answer any questions that you all may have that I can answer. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll be happy to take any questions.
You have a dozen or so. Let's see how it goes. Representative Roman has been anxiously mashing her button to the right. The lady's recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, I do, for my sweet mate.
Thank you. So I actually had two questions. The Speaker took my first one. But for our second question, we were wondering, can you explain the difference between a moped and a motorcycle?
Okay, a motorcycle is a lot faster than a moped. I mean,
The gentleman knows of what he speaks. What can I say?
Mr. Speaker,
You have another very well-versed member who would like to ask a question. Representative Jason Ridley to your extreme right over here. The gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman, yield.
yes, I do, for my something.
It's funny, my wife describes me the same way. Doesn't a moped have pedals?
A moped, some mopeds have pedals.
Okay.
That's the reason that you have the word moped, because it's like moped pedals, but then the scooter, but the scooter part of the moped does not. It has a flat area.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. So if I'm on a bicycle and I'm making like motor noises, is it considered a moped then?
No, that's considered noise on a bicycle.
Okay. Thank you.
Gentleman, yield for a couple more.
Mr. Speaker, this is something I know a lot about, so I can stay here all day.
Well, this gentleman is down on the farm. He waves. I don't think he wants to get involved. Let's see. This is a more urban question, I think, where these things are around. Chairman Martin is recognized for a question.
Gentleman, yield for a question.
Yes, I do.
So isn't it true what you represented there to us was you were worried about if something hit the car from behind like that and did some significant damage, it needs to be insured. Is that right?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman. In fact, the problem I think we have a lot of is a lot of uninsured, uninsured motorists hitting and having damages, and you becoming liable and you paying.
I understand. Isn't it true that, I think once upon a time, you play a little football here and linebacker, I think?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and I had to have insurance.
And isn't it true that I think if you hit a car from behind walking down the road, you'd make significant damage? And I'm just wondering if we got to get you insured.
Mr. Chairman, that's why I had insurance. Yes, I got paid for all my violence.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, if there's no other question, I do ask for a favorable support for this, and I know Micah is watching, and he's in Maryland watching. So, Micah, we've taken Micah's car down, but thank you all, and Mr. Speaker, I do yield the well.
Thank you, Representative McLean. We had a little fun, but this is serious. It could cost somebody some dollars, so we appreciate you bringing the bill. Gentlemen, yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? For what purposes Representative McLean rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
If you could. If you can't answer them, I know I can't. My goodness. State your inquiry, sir.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that by voting yes on this bill means a lot to a lot of Georgia citizens?
I know the gentleman knows of what he speaks, and we appreciate him in bringing the bill. Have all members now voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 494, the yeas are 160, the nays are 14. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of a group of privileged resolutions?
Recognizing and commending Reverend Shivern L. Jeter. Recognizing and commending Dr. Constance Levitt Abbott. Congratulating and commending Catherine Hardrick for receiving the 2025 Yellow Rose Nikki T. Randall Service Leadership Award. Recognizing and commending Maurice Davis, owner of JMR Tires, Southeast Atlanta, for his outstanding contributions to his community. Recognizing and commending Larry Campbell in Corners Outreach. Recognizing and commending Joanna Casido. Recognizing and commending Araceli Barrentios. Commending the Title I Parent Centers of the Meadow Creek Cluster and the Parental Instructional Coordinators. Commending Four Corners Primary Care Centers. Recognizing and commending the contributions of Leslie Palomino. Recognizing and commending Dr. Young Ha Kim and the Community Resource Corporation. And for other purposes, that completes the reading of the privileged resolutions.
Is there any objections to adopting the privileged resolutions? Hearing none, the resolutions are adopted. Members, we have our supplemental rules calendar. It's just coming out on your desk right now. There are two bills that will be rules substitutes that will be on your desk shortly. We will not call them until they're all on your desk. Members, while everyone's in the room, I'm going to recognize we're still on the rules calendar, but we're going to take a little sidetrack and recognize the Chairman of Appropriations, Chairman Hatchett, for an announcement while everyone's here. Chairman Hatchett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Appropriations Committee and their subcommittees will be meeting at 9 a.m. Monday morning in room 341. We have a very important piece of legislation to get out of committee. The FY26 budget.
We didn't even get a break from you in here. You guys are working again on a budget. Sounds good. Mr. Clerk, will you read a caption to House Bill 614?
House Bill 614 by Representative Jones of the 47th and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 2510-2 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to prohibited fireworks activities and application of noise ordinances so as to authorize local governments to prohibit the use or ignition of consumer fireworks in the proximity to certain facilities housing equines. Bill having referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
The pro tem of this House, Representative Jan Jones, is recognized to present House Bill 614.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is a little bit of a departure for me, but I would appreciate your favorable consideration of House Bill 614. It would allow a city or a county to adopt a local ordinance to prohibit fireworks within 100 yards of a commercial facility housing equines in a confined area. It would help to mitigate the deleterious effects of loud, sudden noises on horses, which, when spooked, oftentimes run into fences and have to be put down. It's particularly a concern for our suburban and exurban horse farms that are being crowded out by growth. And in code already, there are about 17 uses that have this same 100-yard restriction. This would add another restriction to that list, but it would be the only one that requires passage of a local ordinance. I did that so that it would not affect the rest of the state unless your city or county found this to be an issue and chose to put it in place. That's what the bill does. I'm happy to answer any questions.
The lady has no questions.
And I appreciate your favorable consideration.
The lady's yielded well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 614, the yeas are 168, the nay is 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 513?
House Bill 513 by Representative LaHood of the 175th and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 70 of Title 36 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to service delivery so as to revise provisions related to the county share of funding for joint funded countywide services be borne by unincorporated residents. This bill having referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chairman LaHood is recognized to present House Bill 513.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I bring to you House Bill 513, which is, I describe this as a cleanup bill to House Bill 1407 from last year that updated the service delivery strategy for the cities and counties in the state to negotiate every 10 years on how they will deliver services to their citizens. And what this simply does is clarify. This came to me from ACCG and GMA. They are all in agreement, and this just clarifies the sources of revenue that counties can use to service unincorporated areas. Mr. Speaker, I'll take any questions. If there's none, I'll yield the well.
The gentleman has no questions. You sit down right there. The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 513, the yeas are 169. The nays, nay is 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 250?
House Bill 250 by Representative Taylor of the 173rd to be entitled an act to amend Title 33 and 34 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to insurance and labor and industrial relations respectively, so as to provide for the registration and regulation of professional employer organizations. This bill having referred to the Small Business Development Committee. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
The lady from Thomasville, Representative Darlene Taylor, is recognized to present the bill. Chair Lady Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, committee. Thank you, folks. I'm excited today to bring you a very good bill. This is House Bill 250, and it concerns professional employer organizations. These are very helpful to small businesses. These organizations do not currently have any oversight, and these companies are like a staffing firm. They do a lot of things to provide small companies with benefits that they can't usually afford. They're like their HR departments. The variety of services they provide are things like payroll, and they provide tax remittance, retirement plans, and purchasing insurance through a larger organization helps them be able to afford it. This bill sets the foundation and rules for them, and they'll be regulated now under the insurance commissioner. The only concern there was in the committee had to do with workers' compensation, and that was all removed, so there's no reference at all to workers' comp in this bill. I would ask for your favorable consideration.
Lady has no questions.
Thank you.
Ladies yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? I got you. Take your time. All members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 250, the yeas are 165, the nays are 7. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 224?
House Bill 224 by Representative Bonner, the 73rd and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions relative to highways, bridges, and ferries, so as to authorize the construction or maintenance of roads upon military bases or installations by the Department of Transportation. This bill I refer to the Committee on Transportation. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chairman Bonner is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I bring you House Bill 224. This is a measure that was brought to us by the leadership of Fort Stewart. This would simply allow the Georgia Department of Transportation through the state of Georgia to enter into a regional intergovernmental support agreement with the Department of Defense so that the DOT could do work on our military installations in Georgia. This will allow work to be done that much more efficiently and will also allow state vendors to do that work. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker. I'll be happy to stand for any questions.
The gentleman has a question to your left. Representative Hefner is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Is it not true that my first duty station was Fort Stewart, Georgia, sir?
The lady knows what she speaks.
Thank you very much for bringing this bill.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the well.
Gentleman's yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 224, the yeas are 172, the nays are 0. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 161?
House Bill 161 by Representative Crowe, the 118th and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 3, Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions relative to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation to provide for the authority to issue subpoenas of electronic communication records for purposes of investigating certain crimes related to cyber-enabled threats to life and property. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Clint Crowe is recognized to present the bill. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, this is House Bill 161 on behalf of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Currently, the director, with oversight from the Attorney General, can issue an administrative subpoena for very limited evidence for subscriber information, for telephonic and computer information for certain crimes. This bill would simply add to those certain crimes, including swatting, terroristic threats, harassing phone calls, and domestic terrorism, because those crimes are often committed via computer or telephones, and getting that information to be able to source where it's coming from quicker. This would prevent a delay for them getting the information from those companies, and that's essentially all it does. And I'll stand for any questions if there are any, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman has no questions.
All right, thank you. I ask for your favorable consideration.
Gentleman has yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 161, the yeas are 158, the nays are 8. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 5656?
House Bill 56 by Representative Petrie, the 166th and others, to be entitled an act to amend subpart 7 of part 3 of Article 7 of Chapter 3, entitled 20 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to grants to children of law enforcement officers, firefighters, and prison guards, so as to provide for tuition grants to spouses of law enforcement officers, firefighters, and prison guards who are killed or permanently disabled in the line of duty. This bill having referred to the Committee on Higher Education. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman Petrie is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you today House Bill 56, which passed last year and went to the Senate, ran out of time and died there. As a reminder, this bill provides, we already have a Georgia Public Safety Memorial Grant that provides free tuition in this state, either in the university system or the technical system, for the children of slain public safety officers, firemen, police officers, paramedics, hero highway emergency response operators, and prison guards. What this bill began as a bill to add spouses of those slain or permanently disabled individuals. This bill will add the spouses of those individuals. In the process of improving this bill, you'll see something new this year. And that is in Section 3, you will see that we are now adding a separate benefit through a separate fund for teachers and for the spouses and children of teachers that might be killed or permanently disabled in the line of duty as well. Mr. Speaker, that's very simply what this measure does. Glad to answer any questions if there are any.
Gentleman has a question if he'll yield.
Yes, sir, I yield.
Representative Bernal to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am, I yield.
Are you aware that the Justice Department pays for spouses to go to school, and there's no time frame on it? And then for the children, they pay for them up to 27 years old, so they can get an undergraduate and a master's degree.
No, ma'am, I'm not familiar with that. I'm not. This ad came out of the committee after it went to rules. There was a desire to add teachers, and so I certainly supported that measure. But I'm not aware of that benefit that you described.
Well, the wife of a slain police officer gave me that information. But thank you for the bill.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The gentleman has no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman has yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. For what purposes? Representative Martin, rise.
A parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true, Mr. Speaker, that in addition, this bill also adds a checkoff on our tax returns and our driver's license if we want to contribute to that teacher memorial fund? Just wanted to sound that out. Isn't that true that if we want to contribute to that fund when we file our taxes or get our driver's license, we can check that box and help these folks that are there for us every day?
I know the gentleman knows what he's speaking. He's read the legislation very carefully. What purposes? Representative Sharp, rise.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it not true that I had the honor of being on Lawmakers with Petrie as he was able to tell the people and the world about this bill, and I 100% support him in this bill?
It's a love fest, no doubt, but it's a good bill. Have all members now voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 56, the yeas are 172, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Thank you, members. For what purpose is House Bill, Mr. Clerk, would you read the caption? It's not even late yet. Mr. Clerk, would you read the caption to House Bill 248?
House Bill 248 by Representative Jaspers, the 11th, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to income taxes to provide for a tax credit for certain expenses incurred by taxpayers for certain geothermal machine installations at residential dwellings. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman of Transportation, Chairman Jaspers, is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I bring to you House Bill 248, which allow more Georgians to utilize the unique aspect of Earth's natural heat to heat and cool their buildings, their homes, This bill will allow for a 25% tax credit, income tax credit on the installation expenses of their residential geothermal system. It will only be applied over 5 years and be $5,000 for any taxable year. It also has a sunset, and which has been very good. These systems require the workers 2 or 3 times what a normal HVAC system would require. It has been proven to reduce our peak electrical grid use and our overall general less energy use. The sub also includes some information that help DOR to guidance in enforcing this tax credit. Mr. Speaker, that's my bill. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
The gentleman has a question to your left. Chairman Parsons is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Speaker. Gentleman yield?
Absolutely.
To the gentleman, isn't it true that I know you've worked very hard on this and it's a good issue, and I'll be right there with you voting for it?
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate your support.
Gentleman has no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for your favorable vote.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine?
We have an elections bill.
Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 248, the yeas are 170, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Okay, members. I'm going to ask you to pay attention to the gentleman in the well. We have our road naming bill that Chairman Prince is going to bring to us. He's going to give you some instructions as he presents the bill. Chairman Prince.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Speaker said, this is our annual road naming bill. We have 3 that are memorial, and I ask that you please stand at this moment. House Resolution 7 dedicates a portion of State Route 38 in Grady County as the George C. Trollock Jr. Memorial Highway. House Resolution 31 dedicates a bridge off U.S. Highway 29, State Route 8 in Madison County as the R. George Strickland Jr. Memorial Bridge. House Resolution 303 dedicates an interchange in Crisp County as the Honorable Johnny Floyd Interchange. I ask that we have a moment of silence for our fallen Georgians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. The last resolution is House Resolution 96, which dedicates a portion of State Route 155 in DeKalb County as the Dr. Gregory B. Levitt Senior Parkway. I ask for your favorable consideration of these resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I yield the will.
Gentlemen's yielded the will. It's always a special time when members honor an individual by a road naming. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Resolution 7, the yeas are 172, the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 638?
House Bill 638 by Representative Silcox, the 53rd, and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 9, and Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority so as to prohibit the stopping or parking of a motor vehicle other than a transit vehicle in a designated transit vehicle lane in the city of Atlanta. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Transportation, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Deborah Silcox is recognized to present House Bill 638. Representative Silcox.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I come to you today to present House Bill 638. But before I get into the bill, I do want to sincerely thank the Speaker Pro Tem for her immense help in perfecting this bill, as well as Chairman Jaspers and the Transportation Committee for their input on this bill. House Bill 638 would allow MARTA to enforce their BRT lanes. What is BRT? BRT stands for Bus Rapid Transit. That in the city of Atlanta and the Atlanta City Council have designated lanes in Atlanta specifically as transit-only lanes, meaning that only buses may ride in these lanes. But in order for people to travel rapidly in these lanes, they cannot be slowed down by other vehicles blocking the lane. House Bill 638 would allow MARTA to have cameras on their buses to ticket vehicles that are parking in these lanes. For the first 6 months of the implementation of this bill, MARTA would conduct a public education and awareness campaign, and the cameras would only issue warnings to people who park in these lanes. After 6 months, the bills, of course, can be issued a citation. The citations are minimal and match the same fines with the distracted driving bill that we did several years ago. The bill also requires that there be visible signage of the use of cameras in the bus-only lane. Violations will not contribute points against a person's motor vehicle record. Furthermore, they will not prohibit anyone from renewing their tag and will never result in an arrest. First responders may still access these lanes in congested areas, and the camera vendor will only be paid with grant funding and no administrative fees. The fees may only be used by MARTA for public safety initiatives. And finally, the bill has a sunset of January 2030. So I would ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 638. And I'll be glad to stand for questions.
The lady has a couple of questions. Representative Parsons to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Speaker. Lady Yield?
I do.
I was trying to find the bill and I hadn't got it up yet to look at. My question is, where would these cameras be located? I mean, they can't be located on the whole route, can they?
No, that's a great question. I appreciate that. They will be located on the buses themselves, on the MARTA buses.
So the bus would have to pass this car that's parked. Is that not correct? Is that
No,
not true? The cars.
They would have them forward and rear facing, so they could take the tag if it's in front of the. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Great question.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am. You have a couple more. Representative Jasmine Clark to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes.
Thank you so much for this legislation. I do believe it's good legislation, but I would like to ask about vehicles that are disabled, not because they just, went to run into the store or something, but what if a person has a flat tire or their car breaks down? Is there any possibility that we can work on the bill to make sure that we're not punishing people who are already kind of in a bad situation?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. These lanes are designated specifically for buses only. And so there shouldn't be cars in those lanes. Ideally, the cars will not be in those lanes. But right now, it is only citations for parked vehicles. So I believe if someone could show that the car was disabled in some way, they would not receive a citation for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Prince to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the lady yield?
Yes, thank you.
Isn't it not true that this measure will allow some of us, while we're in the Atlanta area, to drive the bus? That way we can know what time we'll get here in a smart way.
That is true. The idea, this is rapid transit, and there are many other cities in the United States that have bus rapid transit, and it's a very easy and quick way to get around town. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Representative Washburn to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the chair lady yield?
Thank you. Yes.
Is it not true that this legislation and the cameras referenced in it have absolutely nothing to do with the schools on cameras, which we addressed at length and passed 2 bills out of the House to deal with? Is that not true?
Representative Washburn, I thank you very much for making that distinction. Yes, these cameras have nothing to do with the school cameras whatsoever.
Will the gentlelady yield for another question?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that this is, in my opinion, very good legislation that will help a great deal with the traffic congestion in the city of Atlanta?
the gentleman knows of what he speaks. Thank you so much for the question.
Lady has no further questions.
I'll yield the will. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ladies yield the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 638, the yeas are 145, the nays are 22. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 445? 445.
House Bill 445 by Representative Martin of the 49th to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to ad valorem taxation of property so as to revise the language required to be included in the notices of current assessment. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chairman Chuck Martin is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a redo of House Bill 36 from last year. We passed it 170 to 0. So if you like confusing assessment notices and inefficient appeal processes, you're not going to be for this bill. But if you like the idea of creating a clearer assessment notice so our voters will know what's going on and a better appeal process so we unclog the Superior Court, you're going to like this bill. House Bill 445 gives property owners with personal property greater than $200,000 the option to appeal directly to a hearing officer where they get a knowledgeable individual to settle the appeal and stay out of Superior Court. This is a taxpayer-friendly bill. It also gives the counties the ability to procure more hearing officers so it'll unclog the assessment process. With that, if there are no questions, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the will and ask the House again to send this over to the Senate.
The gentleman yield the will. He has no questions. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? For what purpose does Representative Donahue rise? He waves. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 445, the yeas are 167, the nays are 0. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 466? 466.
House Bill 466 by Representative Cameron of the first to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 3 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to other state symbols so as to designate the marsh tacky horse as the official Georgia heritage horse breed. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Special Rules, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
The gentleman from the very first House District, Representative Cameron, is recognized to present the bill. Representative Mike Cameron.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your time. Today I bring you HB 466, which designates the marsh tacky horse as the official heritage horse of Georgia. At the beginning, this was brought to me. I didn't think much of it, but the more I got into this bill and looked at this horse, it has a great history in America. It came over with the Spanish about 500 years ago. It was used by Native Americans for many centuries. It was used in the Gula culture in Georgia and South Carolina. It was also used in the Revolutionary and Civil Wars. But after the turn of the 20th century, due to disease, the population started dwindling. By designating this horse as a heritage horse, like it has been in several other states, we're recognizing the importance of this horse not only in Georgia history, but the horse itself and how we need to preserve the horse. In Georgia, currently, there's only a couple of hundred horses of this type in here. There's some in South Carolina, Florida, Mississippi, and a couple other states, South and North Carolina. So, Mr. Speaker, that's what the bill does, and I'll take any questions.
You have a couple of questions. Representative Sains, to your left, from down on the coast, has a question.
Thank you. Does the gentleman yield?
Certainly, for my friend from the coast.
Is it not true that though these are important heritage horses, they have no resemblance to the beautiful horses on Cumberland Island, which are actually feral horses since they're let go by the Carnegies on the island?
That would be true, and I had mistakenly thought they were on on Cumberland Island. These horses are smaller than the average horse. They only go about 14 hands, which is about 54 to 56 inches tall. But they're very sturdy horses, and the reason they're called marsh tacky horses is because the word tacky means common horse, but marsh, because they have such large feet, they don't get stuck in mud or in marsh lands.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Representative Al Williams has a question. If the gentleman will yield, Representative Williams is recognized.
I yield to my good friend.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that even though they're small, they're very sturdy, and their use in the Gullah Geechee culture was to plow small farm areas, and they did a great job because of the size of their hoofs and their durability and strength?
That is correct, and that's why we need to teach this to our younger people, that where these horses came from and why and the things that they did in culture and in history. Yes, sir. I yield.
And then maybe our urban whip will get an opportunity to plow one of these fine horses.
Well, and I told someone too, these horses are so small that probably I could get on them without a step ladder, so that always helps. Yeah, you too. Yeah.
It's getting personal now, Mr. Whip. Representative Deloach, to your right, is recognized for a question. He knows about these horses
yes, sir,
as well.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
You named several states that you said have these horses. Do you know how many of those are red states and how many are blue states?
I think they're all red states. Whether it matters.
Great history lessons.
But I don't know how they vote. So,
it's because they have clay red states.
No.
The gentleman has no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 466? The yeas are 168, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 491?
House Bill 491 by Representative Chastain to the 7th and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 3 and Article 2 of Chapter 4 of Title 27 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to hunting and non-commercial fishing respectively, so as to remove an exception for the use of air guns to hunt wildlife. This bill having referred to the Committee on Game, Fish, and Parks. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Chastain, are you ready to present your first bill? Just saying. The gentleman from Blue Ridge is recognized to present House Bill 491, Representative Johnny Chastain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have HB 491 this evening. Hopefully it'll be a simple bill, but this bill extends the current sunset of July 2025 to July 2030 for the hunting with air guns and air bows. And on the second section, we have two minor changes for fishing with bow and arrow for catfish. And we're changing channel catfish and flathead to any catfish. And we're striking through the Savannah River and changing that to species from the waters of this state. And that's really the only changes that we have in this bill.
I mean, I can't hardly help it. I'm so excited for you to take a couple of questions. Forgot to turn on the microphone. You do have a question from a neighbor, and that's the gentleman from the 6th, Representative Jason Ridley. To your right, if you will, yield for a question.
Yes,
Does
sir.
the gentleman yield?
Yeah, I'll yield to my neighbor.
Good. In section 1, lines 12 through 15, could you read those for us?
12 through 15?
Yes, sir.
For the purposes of this subsection, the term air gun means any pistol, handgun, or shoulder-held device such of not less than .30 caliber, 30 caliber, or airbow that propels projectile in the form of a slug shot or arrow equipped with a broadhead utilizing unignited compressed air or gas. Air guns are legal weapons for hunting big game only during primitive weapon hunts, primitive weapon seasons, and firearm seasons.
Okay. In this bill about fishing?
The second section is about fishing.
Okay, so the first section. So in that first section right there, would what we call up where we're from, a potato gun, be legal to use?
I don't think a potato gun would be.
You sure?
Air gun or air bow.
Well, it says anything that projectile that form a slug.
I don't think that would be legal.
I think.
The gentleman has a couple more questions if he'll yield.
Yes, sir, I'll yield.
Representative Thomas is to your right in the back is recognized for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir. To my seatmate, I will yield.
Congratulations on your first bill. I'm curious, do you prefer catfishing via noodling, or are you more of an online cat fisherman?
I have heard there is an online catfishing, but I prefer noodling.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the well.
Amen. That was a pretty good move because you had a lot of questions. You had a whole slew of questions, as a matter of fact. The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? For what purposes Representative Park, Cannon Rice?
A parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that there are members who are concerned that this bill prioritizes special hunting interests over the long-term conservation efforts?
Of catfish?
Yes, sir.
I'm sure some people do have that concern. Yes, ma'am. For what purposes Representative Montahan rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry. Give the gentleman your attention.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that I see about bows and arrows, but I don't see nothing in this bill about noodling?
I think we passed that years ago, Representative. It covers that noodling aspect. Have all members now voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 491? The yeas are 171, the nays are 3. This bill has received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 439? 439.
House Bill 439 by Representative Yurda, the 152nd, and others, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48850 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, related to compensation of dealers for reporting and paying tax and reimbursement deductions, so as to revise deductions allowed to dealers. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Banks and Banking. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Yurda is recognized to present the bill. Chairman Yurda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bring you House Bill 439. 439 is a bill relating to the compensation of dealers or merchants for reporting and paying sales tax and the reimbursement deduction. This means your local restaurant, your local boutique, or your hardware store. In 2024, the Georgia House voted to form a study committee on credit card fees, sales tax, excise tax, and their impact on Georgia merchants and consumers. The committee looked at the effects of credit card processing fees on merchants and consumers and whether the fees should apply to the state tax portion of transactions. The key recommendation that the study committee did come up with was changing the vendor's compensation to support small businesses. Every merchant in Georgia is required to report and collect taxes on sales and remit them to the state. Currently, vendors may retain 3% of the first $3,000 and 1/2% exceeding $3,000 of collected tax. This bill proposes to raise this to 3% of the first $10,000 and 1/2% of the collected tax exceeding $10,000. This begins on January 1st, 2026. This would help small businesses cover some of the costs associated with collecting sales tax. I asked the Revenue Department when this was last changed, and they looked back as far as 2005, 20 years ago, and it hadn't been raised since then. Work with the locals on this bill, including ACCG. This bill would add to the bottom line of small businesses that are struggling with the effects of inflation, supply chain issues, and finding qualified employees. And I certainly also think about the hundreds of businesses that were impacted by Hurricane Helene. You know, Georgia's been voted the best place to do business for the last 11 years. Let's do something to take care of our small businesses in Georgia. I'd appreciate your favorable consideration.
The gentleman has a couple of questions, if you'll yield.
Yes, sir.
Representative Wade, to your right in the back right, has a question.
I will yield.
Well, thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
you yielding, sir. Chairman, is it not true that the small businesses that were impacted by Hurricane Helene, as they open their doors, they are expected to continue to collect and remit those sales taxes, and this will be just a small token to help them as they build back those businesses out of the recovery for many other things the state has done?
The chairman of the study committee knows what he speaks of.
Thank you for carrying this bill. Appreciate your efforts and work.
Thank you.
Representative Roberts, to your left, is
Thank you,
recognized for a
Mr.
question.
Speaker. Do you yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I am all for helping small businesses. I was just curious if you know what that financial impact will be when, let's say, what it would be on last year's revenue from this.
I don't have that exact figure, but it was we actually came up with something that was actually a little bit less than the study committee recommended on the back end. With the original study, the study committee recommended going up 0.5% per year. What we did was just take the first year's recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
The gentleman has no further questions.
Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 439, the yeas are 170, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 447? 447.
House Bill 447 by Representative Gullett of the 19th to be entitled an act to amend Article 4, Chapter 9 and Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to fraud and related offenses so as to provide for the crime of gift card theft, gift card forgery, and gift card fraud. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Gullett is recognized to present the bill. Chairman Gullett.
Thank you, Speaker. Today I rise to present House Bill 447, a crucial measure to combat the growing epidemic of gift card theft. Sophisticated criminal enterprises are stealing gift cards from stores, recording their information, and waiting for unsuspected customers to activate them, only to drain the funds instantly. This isn't a small-time crime. It's organized theft, and it's costing consumers and businesses nearly $1 billion last year alone. Because these cards have no value when activated, prosecuting these crimes has been difficult, leaving businesses and law enforcement with limited options. HB 447 closes the gap, ensuring these criminals can be properly charged and held accountable. This bill protects Georgia businesses, safeguards consumers, and strengthens our fight against organized retail theft, and I urge your support. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to answer any questions.
The gentleman has no questions.
Thank you so much.
The gentleman's yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? He said there's only two. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 447, the yeas are 168, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 331? 331.
House Bill 331 by Representative Campbell, 135th, and others to be titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 11 of Title 4 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions regarding animal protection so as to prohibit the transfer of certain domestic animals at certain locations. This bill having referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Beth Camp is recognized to present the bill. Chairlady Camp.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 331 is a consumer and animal protection bill. What this bill does, it allows for transfer with consideration of dogs, cats, and rabbits at your home, at your place of business, a veterinarian's office, police department, or sheriff's office, FFA, 4-H, AKC events, and any legal location that is stipulated in the Georgia Department of Agriculture license regarding animal sales. It prohibits people selling animals roadside, flea markets, and parking lots. The bill protects consumers because it provides more contact with the sellers and information on the animal's origin in the event there's a health issue or the animal is later found to be misrepresented. Further, it should slow down or stop puppy mill type organizations that bring animals from other states in poor health, raised in deplorable situations to our state because there are penalties involved. Often animals that are purchased on impulse in parking lots and later found to have poor health end up in animal shelters, which cost every single one of us tax-wise. The Georgia Department of Agriculture and the AKC support this measure. Mr. Speaker, I'm open for any questions.
Lady has a question to your left. Representative Moore is recognized for a question.
Good evening. Does the gentlelady yield?
I do.
Parliamentary inquiry, or should I say that now? I know that you say domestic animals, but what about these exotic animals? Why didn't you include that in here? Or is there a reason why the exotic animals are not included in this?
Well, I thank you very much, Representative Moore, for that question. The animals that are primarily sold in this manner are dogs, cats, and rabbits. So that's what we're addressing in this particular bill. I'm not objectionable to addressing animals, all animals, to be sold in a humane manner.
Does the lady further yield?
I do.
There are so many people selling snakes and lizards and bunny rabbits. They're not considered domestic, the bunny rabbit maybe, but and that should have been included in this. I'm wondering if there's something else somewhere that stopped you from putting that in here, because that's really important.
It does address dogs, cats, and rabbits. So rabbits are included.
Like rabbits.
Yes, but it doesn't address reptiles. No, it does not. Thank you, though.
Lady yield for a couple more questions.
I do.
Representative Drenner to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
I do for my friend.
Thank you very much. Is it not true that my county has been working substantially on this issue? And a couple of weeks ago, I went to Walmart on a Saturday morning, and somebody tried to sell me puppies from out of a car. And I just want to say thank you very much for doing this bill. It's good job.
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
One more question. Representative Gullett, right up the center aisle on your right, is recognized for a question.
General yield?
I do.
Isn't it true that this is something really important to my county as well? And not only is it addressing, I believe, people getting animals really without being thinking about how much an animal really costs your life, how much an animal affects your life, but it also, when animals are not wanted, they overrun our humane societies and our local animal shelters, and this will really help put a stop to that as well. Is that not true?
It is true, and I appreciate your comment, and I appreciate your work in previous years on this bill. I know you love animals as much as I do.
Lady has no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield and ask for favorable consideration on this measure.
The lady is yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 331, the yeas are 161, the nays are 13. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 451?
House Bill 451 by Representative Cannon, the 172nd, to be entitled an act to amend Part 14 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to other educational programs under the Quality Basic Education Act. So provide that local boards of education shall be authorized to provide instruction in hunting safety in grades 6 through 12. This bill had referred to the Committee on Game, Fish, and Parks. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Chaz Cannon is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have House Bill 451. House Bill 451 would authorize local boards of education to provide instruction in hunter safety in grades 6 through 12 by Georgia DNR certified instructors. The course is already being taught in more than 100 schools across the state by over 400 certified instructors. Some of the instructors are from our own DNR law enforcement division, some are volunteers, and some are our own local school teachers. The bill requires that any instruction provided must be based on the hunter education and safety courses already established by the DNR, and it must be taught by a DNR qualified instructor. In crafting the bill, we worked very closely with the Department of Education and the DNR to follow what is already being taught in our schools across the state. The language we have now just makes it part of the code. I'll stand for any questions and ask for your favorable consideration, Mr. Speaker.
Representative McDonald, to your right, is recognized for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Does anywhere in this bill is a word CUVA and what CUVA stands for hidden?
Sure we can add it over in the Senate if we need to.
Representative Petrie, to your left, is recognized for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do, to the gentleman from the coast.
Yeah, Representative and friend, is it not true that there's not much better we could have young people doing today than being outdoors, whether it's hunting or fishing or whatever else? But is that not true?
The gentleman knows of what he speaks.
Representative Sanchez, to your right, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I yield.
Thank you. Is there a reason why this bill is narrowed only to hunting safety and not for general gun safety in general?
Hunter safety could include that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Irwin, to your right, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I yield to my seat, mate.
Do you mind if I ask you how many times you took this course before you passed it?
I'm not going to answer that one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good bill.
Yield the well.
I was coming with a question, but the gentleman yielded the well. The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. For what purpose is Representative Moore rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that not everyone wants to see a young man, a young woman between 6 and 12 grade running around with a gun outside? Seriously?
I'm sure the lady has her opinion, and she's welcome to it. For what purpose is Representative Hagan rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that this bill does not require any local school system to adopt this program, but it leaves them the option, and so if the parents don't want to see their children doing that, they can let their local school board know?
I know the lady knows of what she speaks for. What purpose is Representative Burchett rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that this bill allows for when kids are outside with guns, they are trained properly in safety?
I'm sure the gentleman knows what he speaks. He has 2 young boys. Now, have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 451, the yeas were 159, the nays are 16. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 593?
House Bill 593 by Representative Green to the 154th to be entitled an act to provide for that future elections for the office of probate judge of Baker County shall be nonpartisan elections. This bill having referred to the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
The Dean of this House, Representative Gerald Green, is recognized to present House Bill 593.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I can assure you this is not my first bill. I want to thank the committees that helped me bring this bill to today's vote. And this is House Bill 593, and it's to provide that future elections for the office of probate judge of Baker County shall be nonpartisan. I have letters from the probate judge. I have the county commission that has sent their request in that I present this bill to you, my colleagues. So, Mr. Speaker, if there are no questions, I would favorably ask that each of you vote for House Bill 593.
The gentleman has no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
He knows what he's doing. Gentlemen, as yielded the well, is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. Previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 593, the yeas are 150, the nays are 20. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read a caption to House Bill 535.
House Bill 535 by Representative Smith of the 18th, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 42838 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating arrest or graduated sanctions for
how's the boy?
For probationers violating terms, hearing, disposition of charge, and procedure when probation revoked in county other than that of conviction. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Representative Tyler Paul Smith is recognized to present House Bill 535.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of this august body, I bring to you House Bill 535. This is in response to the case decided over across the street in the Kellum case. This bill would fix that and eliminate the confusion. In almost all contexts, if a person is sitting in jail waiting adjudication of a case, Georgia law dictates that their time sitting in jail counts as time served if they're sentenced to more jail or prison time. This bill provides a very simple fix. It would count time served for probation revocation cases in the same way as any other case. This is how courts counted time served for years before the Court of Appeals decision created the legal fiction that time in jail only counts as time on probation for purposes of time served calculations. That, Mr. Speaker, is the bill in a nutshell, and I will yield for questions.
The gentleman has no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield well and ask this body's favorable consideration.
Gentlemen, yield the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? Have all members voted? I think you have. Looks like it to me. Wow. On the passage of House Bill 535, the yeas are 178, and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 521?
House Bill 521 by Representative Anderson to the 10th and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 8 of Chapter 36 and Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to municipal de-annexation so as to revise procedures related to the de-annexation of certain properties. This bill having referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by Rules Committee sub.
Chairman Anderson is recognized to present House Bill 521.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, once again, I bring a follow-up bill to some of the actions we've done over the last few years with a little addition here. Section 1 of House Bill 521 requires that any de-annexation, when that occurs, that the appropriate shape files be provided to the Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment Office. Section 2 of the bill applies only to one particular county and one particular tract of property, which is the 9,000 some odd acre tract of property in Paulding County that is currently owned by, I believe, the city of Atlanta that they're looking for a buyer for. And all this does is it says that once that occurs, that there is an agreement between the city and the county regarding the future annexation of that property. Section 3 is where this bill started, and that is requiring that when a county wants to de-annex county-owned properties, only county-owned properties, that the municipality must provide a response within 90 days. It's currently in code that the county can request de-annexation, but there's no time limit. And this is something that was overlooked when we did the de-annexation rewrite a couple of years ago. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'll stand for any questions.
The gentleman has no questions.
Thank you. I request your favorable consideration, and I yield the will.
The gentleman's yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to withdrawing the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute offered by the Committee on Rules? Hearing none, the Rules Committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? For what purpose does Representative Holly rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, sir.
Mr. Speaker, it is not true that this substitute for this bill is actually providing enough transparency for the public and is good not only for the county of the sponsor, but also for those counties that actually find themselves applicable to this measure.
I know the gentleman carefully reads legislation, and I appreciate his insight. Have all members now voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 165, the nays are 10. This bill, House Bill 521, has received a requisite constitutional majority and is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 433?
House Bill 433 by Representative Ballinger, the 23rd, and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 3, Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to Georgia Crime Information Center, so as to provide that the Department of Human Services shall be authorized to access restricted and sealed information and conduct employee oversight in certain circumstances. This bill having referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Ballinger is recognized to present the bill. The lady has the will.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate your attention to this matter. Right now, our Department of Family and Children's Services, as well as our Department of Human Resources, cannot access certain GCIC information. According to the NCIC information, this is required of our out-of-state partners that function in the same capacity as our DHR and our Division of Family and Children's Services, but it's not available to our own in-state Department of Human Resources and Division of Family and Children's Services. So this just allows them access to that information, changing the GCIC rules. I'll be happy to stand for any questions.
The lady has no questions.
Thank you. I appreciate your favorable consideration, and I yield the well.
The lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 433? The yeas are 177, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Members, we're moving along now, but I have a request of you. If you have a space heater, I know it gets a little cool in here sometimes. If you have a space heater that's plugged in the chamber now, you need to unplug it for a few minutes. I'm sorry. Get up and run around if you're cold. So you need to unplug them for a few minutes. That's causing some issues with our circuitry in other parts of the Capitol. Yeah, primarily the Senate. They're out of lights over there. Plug them back in. I'm not sure they were doing anything anyway, so what's the big deal? So if you will oblige me with that, and so we can continue. We won't have to light any candles or anything like that. So if you'll unplug them for a few minutes, we'll move on with our day. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 54?
House Bill 54 by Representative Clark of the 100th and others to be entitled an act to amend Titles 16, 31, and 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to crimes and offenses, health, and professions and businesses, respectively, so as to authorize advanced practice registered nurses and physician assistants to order home health care services to patients of licensed home health agencies. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative David Clark is recognized to present the bill. Representative Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I bring before you House Bill 54, a bill that allows PAs to order or prescribe home health services. According to the Georgia Department of Human Services, Division of Aging Services, in 2022, 14% of Georgia's population was 65 or older, up from 12.7% in 2019. Georgia's ranked 7th among states attracting older adults. With the aging boomer population, the demand for home health care will only continue to rise. According to the Rural Health Information Hub, home health is vital for those with chronic conditions, disabilities, or short-term rehabilitation needs after hospital discharge. Many rural residents depend on home health care to maintain independence and avoid hospitalization or nursing home placement. This care is cost-effective, improves recovery, and eliminates unnecessary travel, yet rural population still faces barriers to access. Now, why House Bill 54 matters, in 2020, the Federal CARES Act permanently authorized PAs to order home health services if individual states also allow it. And passing House Bill 54 brings Georgia in line with this authorization, improving access to essential care. And also, I know many of you have asked why the APRNs are not included in this bill. There's a committee process that shapes legislation, and this remains an ongoing discussion. And I know it's been brought up, yes, during COVID-19, the governor granted APRNs temporary authority to approve home health services, which significantly sped up patient care. And I recognize the importance of this issue and look forward to working with all of you to always put patients first. And I urge all of you to vote in support of House 54 and would be glad to take any questions.
Gentleman yields for a question. Representative Bennett, 2 to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not true that by passing this bill, it will allow for continuity of care for a lot of patients that will otherwise have to wait, could be weeks and months before they could get that ongoing prescription?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Great bill.
The gentleman has no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for your favorable vote of House Bill 54. Thank you.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 54, the yeas are 177, the nays are 0. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 511.
House Bill 511 by Representative Lumsden of the 12th and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 32 and Title 33 in Code Section 48.7.27 of the Official Code of Georgia and Territory relating to property insurance and computation of taxable net income. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman Lumsden is recognized to present the bill. Chairman Eddie Lumsden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I bring to you House Bill 511. This is a piece of model legislation that comes from the National Council of Insurance Legislators. In light of recent devastating storms that have impacted our state, this is a small measure that will help provide an opportunity for our citizens to better prepare to recover from future catastrophic events. I would note that several of our other neighboring states, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and South Carolina, have already passed this legislation, and several other states are considering it. This bill provides a way of reducing one's taxable income by way of a catastrophic savings account, which can be used when a declared catastrophic event occurs. It works similar to a health savings account. The savings account may be a regular savings account or a money market account, but it must be designated as a catastrophic savings account. One must have the corresponding funds in the amount to receive the reduction and must show money spent are for qualified catastrophic expenses. This only applies to individual taxpayers who own their own home, and it must be a residential property that is their primary residence, and it only applies to a declared catastrophic event. Mr. Speaker, that's the bill, and I would appreciate your favorable consideration.
The gentleman has no questions.
Thank you. I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Let's Have all members voted? All members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, lock the machine. On the passage of House Bill 511, the yeas are 177, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 718?
House Bill 718 by Representative Jones of the 60th to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4, Title 1 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to holidays and observances so as to provide that the first week in April of each year shall be Women's Golf Week in Georgia. This bill having referred to the Committee on Special Rules, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Representative Sheila Jones is recognized to present House Bill 718. Give the lady your attention, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. I have
proceed.
Thank you. I have before you HB 718, which provides for the first week in April of each year to be Women's Golf Week in Georgia. And I ask for your favorable vote on this bill.
May I ask the lady a question?
Yes, sir.
Isn't there a little golf tournament that goes on in Augusta maybe the week after this that your the lady amateurs are going to be? Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon, Chairman Prince. I'll let you have the question. I was getting ahead of myself, getting ahead of you. Chairman Prince is recognized for a question. Sorry, Chairman Prince.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentlelady yield?
Yes, I will.
As the Speaker was alluding to, is there not another small golf tournament that usually recognized the first week in April, the first full week in April, that this might have some deconfliction with?
Yes, this is the time that the Masters take place, and the Women's League, Golf League, has something going on during that time as well.
Is the lady further to you?
Yes.
Isn't it true that as part of Masters Week, there is a women's pro golf tournament that this would fit right in line with?
LPG, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you for bringing the bill.
Thank you.
Lady, yield for one more question.
Yes, sir.
Representative Dawson, to your left, is recognized for a question. Representative Dawson.
Does the lady yield?
Yes, I will.
Is it not true that 23% of all golfers are women and that women make up a very active group of golfers?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Thank you for this bill. Thank you.
The lady has no further questions. I know she's worked very diligently on this bill. We appreciate her work. Lady has no further questions.
Thank you, and I ask for your favorable consideration.
Lady is yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine. On the passage of House Bill 718, the yeas are 174, the nays are 1. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Congratulations. It's a good bill. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 571?
House Bill 571 by Representative Hawkins, the 27th, to be titled an act to amend Chapter 34 of Title 43, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to physicians, assistants, and others, so as to provide the licensing of a radiologist assistance. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman Hawkins is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You have before you House Bill 571. This deals with radiology assistants. Right now, they're very valuable to the workforce. You know that healthcare is being expanded in technology in a lot of directions, and radiology is one of them. This is an important bill to allow the radiology assistants to help increase access to health care, to keep up with the expanding technology, and most of all, it will help patient access and patient safety. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I will stand for any questions.
Gentlemen, you for a question. Dr. Newton, to your right, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yeah.
Isn't it true that radiology is a very unique specialty, and they haven't had the benefit of physician assistants and nurse practitioners that work close together? But this bill kind of fixes that. It leaves the board-certified radiologists reading the films, but allows a lot of the interventional things to be done with an assistant who's well-trained, as you described.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, this is a future that we're moving into at a rapid pace. There needs to be some thought, and the Board of Medicine is going to be involved with some of that process.
Thank you for your work on this advancement. Thanks.
Thank you.
The gentleman has no further questions.
Sir?
You have no further questions?
Then I'll yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
Gentlemen, is yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 571, the yeas are 162, the nays are 11. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions?
Honoring the legacy of the Battle of Briar Creek, recognizing and commending Michelle Riggs, recognizing and commending Dr. Teresa T. Bird, recognizing and commending Dr. Paula Greaves, honoring the life and memory of Steve Mensch, recognizing May 20th as Myositis Awareness Month, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privileged resolutions.
Rules Chairman is recognized for an announcement. Mr. Rules Chairman. Chairman Parrish.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We'd like for the Rules Committee to join me in 341 at 6:30. 6:30, 341, Rules Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, y'all all understand and have your tickets for the food trucks that are outside the Capitol for our dinner. Would that be correct? If you don't, you need to come by my office and pick up a ticket. If you do not have a ticket and you want to enjoy the food that we're providing. Okay, this House will stand in recess until 7 p.m. 7 p.m. House in recess until 7 p.m.